Hello student, today I am taking class 8 civics chapter 7 understanding marginalization. My dear student, what is the meaning of this marginalization? It is a situation in which an individual or the groups of individual is developed on certain privilege or they are treated as different from the others. So these we call as marginalization. Do you know, in our social environment, we see there are different types of groups of the peoples or communities, they are living together. So the main marginalizations can become how? Because of the some reasons like their spoken languages, their customs or their religions, and that is different from that of majority community. That is the biggest reason. Next, they may also feel, sometimes they feel marginalized because they are poor or they be considered as a low social status and they viewed as being less human than others. These are also. Now, thus we can see this marginalization is experienced in every sphere of life: economical, social, cultural and some political factors. These all work together to make certain groups in this society, so they feel themselves they are marginalized. These are the different reasons why they are feeling that. So we can see some group that is called Adivasi. Do you know the term Adivasi? It means they are original inhabitants. The communities who live or often they continue to live in close association with the forest. So these type of peoples we call them Adivasi. Do you know some other facts are also about these Adivasis? What are they? Just see. Do you know around 8% of the Indian population is Adivasi? Many of the Indians, most of the important mining and industrial centers, mostly they are located in Adivasi area like Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bokaro, Bhilai, among others. Adivasi is also known as scheduled tribes. Now, Adivasis are not a homogeneous population. There are near about 500 different Adivasi groups they are living in India. So, mostly the states where these Adivasis are found. So, you see, Adivasis are particularly numerous in states like we can see Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. And state like Odisha, it is a home of more than 60 different tribal groups are living in these places. Now you see the next. What are the characteristics of these Adivasi? Do you know? Adivasi society, mostly they are distinct because they are often very little hierarchy among them. This makes them they differ from other communities. Why? Because they organize around principle of Jati Varna, means caste, or those that were ruled by the kings. That is why they differ. See this, Adivasis practices range of tribal religion that are different. They are different from Islam, Hinduism and Christianity, and these Adivasis worship their ancestors, village and nature spirit. That are the different characteristics of this. You see, the village spirits are often worshipped at specific scared groves within the village boundary, while the ancestral ones are usually they worshipped at home. You know, Adivasis also have been influenced by some different surrounding regions like Shakta, Buddhist, Vaishnav, Bhakti and Christianity. Now, Adivasi religions themselves have influenced some dominant religions of the empire around them. That is also a main characteristics of this. For example, we can see the Jagannath cult of Orissa, Shakti and Tantric traditions in Bengal and Assam. So they are influenced by these reasons. During the 19th century, we can see a large number of these converted to Christianity. So this has emerged a very important religion in modern history of this. Now they have their own language, most of them radically different forms and probably old as Sanskrit. Do you know these languages have been these influence the formation of the mainstream that Indian languages like Bengali, now Santali, These has the largest number of the speakers and a significant body of publications including magazines on, you can see, the internet or e-zines. Adivasis and stereotyping. What does it mean? In India, when we see, we usually depict Adivasis communities in particular ways. You see, they are invariably portrayed in very stereotyped ways during official events, functions, or even in books and movies. We can see, you can see differ how they are shown in colorful costumes, headgears where they are wearing something, and so they are dancing. So in this way they are looking different. It is the general belief of the people that they are exotic, means coming outside, primitive and backward. These are the thinkings. So they blame for the lack of advancement, and they are believed to be resistance to change or new ideas will become. However, the stereotyping, when a person forms a mixed mental image or an idea of a particular type of person or things, he is referred as stereotype. He is not coming out from it. No, particular community in this way, it can lead to people discriminating against such groups. These are the reason. Now, Adivasis and development. What type of development will be taken place? We know that forests used to be absolutely crucial to the development of all empires and settled civilization in India. So they lived in the forest and they have deep knowledge about the forest. Basically, hunter-gatherers and the nomads, they have too much knowledge of the forest. They lived by shifting agriculture, and some of them also cultivated in one place. So the changing, what type of changing scenario we can see in the forest lands? The changings are, do you know, metal ores like iron and copper, gold, silver, coal and diamonds were mined from the forest land. Second one, some valuable timber was taken from the forest. Animals like elephants, which are essential for imperial armies, that came from the forest. And the continuation of life depend, mostly their life is heavily dependent on the forest, as they help to recharge many of the Indian rivers and crucial to availability and quality of air and water. So these are some factors which change these lands. Now, forest covered a major part of our country till the 19th century, as well as it controlled over most of the forest tracts till the middle of the 19th century. So what happened? Empires depend heavily on these peoples to access some critical forest resources. But however, what happened in the past 200 years, they have been increasingly forced for what? For economy, through some economic changes like the forest policies and some political force. They change their lives. But the state and private industries, because of these reasons, they have to migrate to the cities. That is the biggest reason for the changing. In the cities, they are under the compulsion to work at construction sites as a labor in factories or as domestic workers. Do you know they do not have control or much direct access to the forest territories? Forest land that once belonged to these peoples have been cleared for different purposes such as agriculture and industry. So in this way their life will be disturbed. Do you know the regions which are inhabited by these peoples are rich in minerals during that time and some other natural resources. So these are taken over for the mining and on other than for industrial projects, and most of the time the India land is taken away forcefully and proper procedures are not followed. So today they were marginalized communities. Now, what are the reasons for the displacement? A trouble faced by these peoples. So you know, according to the official figures, we can see more than 50% of these peoples displaced from their original place due to two reasons, by the minings and mine projects are these. Another survey report shows that 79% of the persons were displaced from the states of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Jharkhand are the tribals. Do you know, huge tracts for tribal lands have also been washed away. Why? Because they want to build a dam in independent India. That is also a reason. When we see in the northeast, tribal lands are highly militarized and war-torn. That is why it changed. India has near about 54 national parks and 372 wildlife sanctuaries covering area. It is 1,09,652 square kilometer. So these areas were originally inhabited by the tribal, but who get eventually evicted. Now it is reserved, so they are not allowed to live in these places. Those continuing to stay in these forests are termed as their encroaches. Now, what are the results for these peoples got the troubles? See, they lost their own land. The main sources of livelihood will be finished. Second, many of these have migrated to the cities. Why? In search of work. From where they get employed for very low wages, they have to work in buildings, industries and the construction sites. So their life will be changed. They are caught in a cycle of poverty and deprivation. Do you know 45% of these tribal groups in rural areas and 35% in urban area, they come to below poverty line. And many tribal children are malnourished, means children do not get some adequate food or nutrition. That is also a biggest reason for this. Literacy rates among tribals are very low, and so they are displaced from their own land. They do not just lose their sources of income, but the tradition and customs also change the way of living being. Do you know the economic and social dimensions of these tribal lives are interconnected, but all will be changed. You see, that is why the destruction in one sphere naturally it will be impact on the other. So often this process of that disposition and displacement, it will become very painful and violent for the peoples, those who are living in one place, and they have to be forced, so they have to migrate from one place to another. Now you see what is called minorities and marginalization. The term minority, it is mostly commonly used to refer communities that are numerically very small compared to the rest of the population. Do you know the term marginalization? It refers to the situation in which an individual is deprived by certain privilege or treated different from others. So they comes under these minorities. Now you see, what are the concept of minorities covers issue of powers, access to resource, and as some social and cultural dimensions are also included in it. You see, the Indian Constitution, it recognizes that the culture of majority influences the way in which the society and the government might express themselves. In such cases, size can be disadvantaged and it looked to be marginalization to relatively smaller communities. So what are the safeguards given to these minority groups by the Constitution? See this. Our Constitution, it provides certain safeguard to all the religious and linguistic minorities. These to protect minority communities against the possibility of being culturally dominated by the majority. So they are saved by our Constitution. Next, the Constitution safeguard also protect them against discrimination and disadvantage. Minority communities may feel insecure, but their lives, assets and well-being. Next, this sense of insecurity may be get heightened if the relation between minorities and majorities communities become strained. During that time, it will be difficult. So our Constitution is committed to protecting Indian cultural diversities and promoting equality and justice. When it was written, equality and justice, so all will be safe and protected. Do you know the judiciary system, it plays very important role in upholding the law and enforcing all the fundamental rights which are equal to all the peoples of the citizens of the India, either they are majority groups or in the minority. Now, Muslims and marginalization. Do you know Muslims are near about 13.4% according to 201 census of India's population, and they were considered to be marginalized community, and now they have over the year been deprived of the benefits of all social economic development. They have little access to education, and they are deprived of some basic amenities like water, electricity. So in public employment too, they always lag behind other communities. Do you know, the Indian government, due to this, Indian government set up high level community committees in 205, which was chaired by Justice Rajendra Sachar. The committee examined these social, economic and educational status of these Muslim community in this matter was comparable to other marginalized community, like to whom they compare, like scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Economic and social marginalization. See, the other dimension which were experienced by Muslims in economic and social marginalization, the Muslim customs and practices like such as wearing burqa, face make them different from other. Because of this, they tend to be identified differently. Now, they considered separate from the mainstreams and treated unfairly. The social marginalization has been forced to migrate from the place where they have to live, often leading to ghettoization. Means it is an area or the locality that is populated largely by the members of some particular community. No. Sometimes what happens, these prejudice leads to hatred and create violence. In our country, there are several more marginalized communities are living in our country, like Dalit. It is quite essential to bring these communities in the mainstream, so they may will get access of rights, maybe there will be development and they will get other opportunities easily. It is necessary to protect the right of minorities as defined in our constitution. Do you know, in order to protect our country, unique diversities and uphold the ideal of equality will be followed. What we concluded on this, see, marginalization, it results in having low social status and not having any equal access to education and other resources. So you know, yet the lives of marginalized peoples can and do change. No one is marginalized all the time in exactly the same way. Each marginalized group has a long history of struggle and resistance, and marginalized communities want to maintain their culture, their distinctness, and while having access to right of development and other opportunities as well. So you have studied what is marginalization, which are the different groups in our country, how they are differ, and now what are their rights. Now see the question and answer. First one, write your own words, two or more sentence. What do you understand by this word marginalization? Do you know? It refers to low social status of the minorities and their unequal access to these public resources. Do you know, the member of minority communities, they face marginalization because why? Because they are smaller numbers, and that can be social, economic, political and cultural, they are differ. Question number 2, list 2 resources why Adivasis are become increasingly marginalized. The 2 reasons are, first, their distinct culture and customs, and second one, they lived in the area which are rich in minerals and natural resources, which should be controlled by the government. So these are 2 main reasons. See the question number 3. Write 1 reasons why you think the constitution safeguard to protect these minority communities are very important. See, the constitution safeguard to protect minority communities because they are very important, because they are numerically small in number and could possibly be dominated or discriminated against by majority. So that is why the reason constitution will be safeguard them. Next, reread the section on minorities and marginalization. What do you understand by this term? The term minority refers to any community which is numerically smaller in number and in comparison to rest of the population. You are participating. See, in debating, where you have to provide reasons, you have to support the following state. Muslims are marginalized community, and using the data provide in this chapter. List 2 reasons. What do you give? See, what are the reasons? First, the representation of Muslims in public employment is not in proportion in their population. Second one, the literacy rate of Muslim is the least in all and much below the national average. Second, would you agree with the statement that economic marginalization and social marginalizations are interlinked? If so, why? See, yes, I agree with the statement because economic marginalization lead to social marginalization. It lead to the same way. Do you know? The social marginalization, it lead to economic marginalization. That is why the two are interlinked. For example, you can see an Adivasi community, they faces social marginalization and it would not be able to secure means of livelihood. Then it would be marginalized socially too. Some extra question, how many Adivasis groups are there in India? There are near about 500 different Adivasis groups are there. Which tribal language are the largest number speaks in India? They are Santhali language. That is the largest number of speakers in India. Why have many Adivasis migrated to cities? Reason, because they want to search for work after losing their lands and livelihood. They migrate to the cities for working. So now we had finished this, and tomorrow I'll take the next topic of civics, chapter 8. Thank you.